let's see the difference, that what actually are the difference between faults and tectonic. So tectonic plate is a massive slab, okay, that is a massive slab. So tectonic plate is rock slab, irrespective different in terms of their composition. We could have any combination of igneous, metamorphic or sedimentary rock here. Okay. So they are large rigid slab of earth lithosphere around 200 kilometers. That could be the depth of, and this plate will going to move over the asthenosphere. So above the asthenosphere, the crustal part which is there, that is being known as what plate. Similarly, what are faults? Faults are like fractures or zone of weakness in the earth crust where rocks have slipped past each other. So here, just focusing this particular, just focusing on this particular activity, or the blocks we are talking. So we have block 1, we have block 2. If the Mantle convectional current are working, blocks will going to interact. 1 may slide over 2, 2 may slide over 1, 2 may subside, 3 might move on this particular second block. The block 2 can be moved over the block 3, and block 3 might. Okay, so that is based on the interaction of Mantle convectional current with respect to the entire plate, and yes, with respect to the stress which is building with the consequent successive rock layers and appear on the surface parts of the plate. And these faults, they will going to form within the crustal rocks. They will going to form within the crustal rocks along plate boundaries, and they are also being found, faults are also being found along the plate boundaries obviously, and within the plates as well. So along the plate, this is the continental plate, this is the oceanic plate. When there is a collision, as a result of this, the fractures will be there, and as a result of fractures, what will be developed? Faults will be developed. And yes, as the faults are there, we will have what? Earthquake. So, similarly, here if the collision is intense, so that will lead to some sort of formation of fractures. Rock blocks could be there. Rock blocks could be there on this particular plate part. We are terming as what? So tectonic plates include both continental plate and oceanic plate. And yes, these plates are also including what? Uppermost mantle. They are also including what? Uppermost mantle. I hope you remember lithosphere comprised of crust as well as uppermost mantle. Tectonic plate is actually moved because of the Mantle convectional current, and the movement along the faults, will take place because of the stress accumulation and releasing of stress. Okay, primarily. However, the main cause behind these two facts is Mantle convectional current. So current is strong enough. When the current is strong enough, that will lead to the movement of plate, entire plate. And when the current is there, if that current is continuously building up the stress in the rocks, that will lead to the movement in the faults. We can have a divergent, convergent and transform plate boundary movement. We can have a normal fault, we can have a reverse fault, and we can have a strike slip fault. And they provide large scale setting where stress build up. They are the direct site where the earthquake actually occur due to rupture and displacement. Covered these. Moving ahead, types of fault. Let's see. So when we have these tensional forces, that will be termed as what? Normal fault. So here what is happening? That is the entire block. Remember, here we have this entire plate, and in this plate we have some sort of interaction in this way. So this leg is stronger. As this leg is stronger, the stress is built up in this way, and the stress is building up in this way. That will go. when it will going to move downward, this block, now this will be termed as what? Fault line. Okay, so here we have a normal fault, tensional force, divergent. Second thing is that we may have reverse fault. How reverse fault will be there? So whenever we have a convergence, suppose the Mantle convectional current are working in this way, and these rock blocks, the stress which is about to build up, that stress which is about to build up, it is taking place in this way. And because of this stress, what will happen? Because of this stress, what will happen? Because of this stress, what will happen? We will have this particular part of block which will going to subside on the another one. This particular part of rock will go to subside on the another one. That will be termed as what? No. Termed as what? No. And we could have a strike slip fault. If this shear stress is there, because of the shear stress, we can have a movement in block. One will going to move in this way, move in this way. Okay. So we have this strike slip. It is based on those compressional forces, tensional forces, and shear. So when we have a normal fault, so we will have what? Tensional forces or pulling apart because of the divergent convectional current at the bottom, because of which the stress which is building in these rocks, or let's say in these layers of rocks, that is also what? Tensional. And because of this tensional, one block will going to move downward and another block will move, that will remain at the particular position. One will go, if it is going to move downward, that will be termed as what? Normal fault. Similarly, reverse fault is the fault wherever you have a compressional forces pushing towards each other because of this kind of current. Similar stress is building in the rock layers, successive rock layers. When the same thing is there in the entire rock blocks, we will see that we have this kind of reverse fault. And then we have a strike slip fault as a result of shear stress. Here we have what? So here we have these three set of faults: normal fault, reverse fault, and strike slip. Again, I'm telling you, this is what the normal fault when we have a divergence. This is what the reverse fault when we have some sort of divergence. And yes, when we have complete boundary movement, similarly the stress up in the plate and entirely on the surface of plate in terms of rock blocks. In faults, we can say that is what to develop. I hope you remember, faults are actually taking place on the surface part of our plate, whereas plate is a higher. On that particular landmass, we have a small rock blocks. I hope you remember peanuts and that almond example. So that peanuts and almond example is the set of rocks. The one peanut or one almond grain is there, and the second almond grain is there. If it is going to move on that another one, so we will have what? Formation, and we will have a formation of some sort of high elevated areas or some sort. So when we have a fault in this way, so the part which has been moved downward, that will be called as what? Graben. Part which has moved up, or the part which retain the upper position as compared to this graben, that will be called as what? Host. Remember, we may have a two condition. We have a block 1, block 2. One condition is what? This block could going to move downward. This block is above as compared to this one. This will be called as host, and this will be called as graben. First condition. Second is what? We may have this condition that this may lead to, when we have this aspect, so it is above, so this will be called as graben. This will be called as host. Again, this will be called as host, and this will be called as what? Graben. So the part which is sinking, that is called as graben, and the part which is above or getting above, that will be called as what? Part which is sinking or comparatively lesser in terms of elevated areas, that will be called as graben. You might have heard about Narmada river, that Narmada river is flowing through the, so here we, for example, I am telling, Here we have a Yan mountains, then we have a Satpura. Yan and Satpuras are the example of what? Rock set of mountains formed in this. Okay, these rocks are not like 1 or 2 square feet or meter. No, they are up to thousands kilometers, 100 kilometers. The entire block could have a width or dimensions in terms of 100 by 100, more than that. Okay, so here I hope you have a clarity regarding the types. Faults are very much, have a relevance of earthquake. So wherever you see faults, those areas always earthquake, apart from plate margins. Earthquake will always occur at the plate margin, that is for sure, as per plate tectonics theory. Now similarly, as per the plate tectonics theory, similarly as per the the energy and the strain accumulation which we have discussed as of now, because of that rocks will have some sort of stress release, that will be earthquake, and yes, we may have a formation. So all of these processes could take place simultaneously. Okay, all of these processes take place simultaneously. However, all of these processes could act independently with respect to, okay, at some time we may have what? A formation. At some time we may have what? The block will go. That will be all, and that's all. Really, that's all in this. Next video we will be continuing. Then